Hi, David. Thanks for having me. Good to speak to you again.
Sorry, just hi everybody. I just had my microphone off for the last 2 minutes. So, welcome to the show again. I said before that hopefully you are fine where you are. I'm a little ill myself, but thankfully no COVID. So hopefully things are good where you are. So, for those who just missed the introduction because I was a little lagging on my side, we have Jihad Shamis with us. He is here from. I think you're in London, right?
Yeah, in London. That's right. South
Beautiful.
London.
Right, South London, all right. And Jihad runs the Archery for All channel. So as you can see on the screen right now, this is Jihad's channel. He's been doing a lot of work in the last month or two, interviewing a lot of archery figures, and I think it's only appropriate that we get him on board to be interviewed himself. Partly because I've looked through the list of interviewees you've had, and these are people I've wanted to interview for the last like year or so, and you've managed to get everyone, like every single person I wanted to interview before I did. So I think it's an amazing project you've been working on, and I've literally run out of people to interview. So I thought, why not interview Jihad
Thanks.
himself because I just can't think of anybody else. So those watching through, you can see he's talked through Stephen Selby. He's one of the biggest researchers in Chinese archery and traditional archery. Thomas DuVernay, Korean archery. Patricia Consalves, which I work with as well. She's one of the teachers in Canada. Zach Jureka does a lot of leather work and quivers. Great job when you know every person on this list. So this is one of the most, and also honestly, one of the most comprehensive like libraries of interviews with the leading experts in the field as they are right now. Like people are. This is the thing of archery. I think I will talk with Jihad a bit later. But one of the amazing things of archery is
Mm.
how diverse everything is and how many people are willing to share. Given the opportunities and the platforms to do so, so it's been amazing to go through. I've watched only a small fraction of this, including myself. By the way, I'm here, so you can watch that episode as well. But there are so many big
Yeah.
names here, which definitely you have to watch if you have a time to listen to some podcasts or interviews. Definitely look at Archery for All. Just the wealth of knowledge and the insight direct from the people involved have been amazing. And of course, Jihad himself is no slouch when it comes to archery experience, and I'm very glad to have Jihad on board as our guest for today. So this is going to be a pretty casual Q&A. Those who are regulars to the channel will know that this is a fairly laid back event. This is an open invitation for anyone in the audience to chip in, ask questions. And Jihad and I are both here to share our perspectives and experiences. So you can ask himself, you can ask Jihad. And we'll be happy to answer questions as they come in. So, welcome to everybody. Thanks to everyone joining in. By the way, if you're checking in, top where you are. I know it's quite late in Australia. It is 12 midnight or 12:15 midnight. I think it's 3:15 p.m. in England, and it's probably 10 a.m. ish somewhere in the East Coast US. So welcome. This is a different crowd than usual, but hopefully if you're watching live, you'll enjoy our show. If you're watching afterwards, and hopefully stick around and we get some interesting topics for discussion. So I guess because many of us don't know Jihad, this is our chance to find out more about Jihad. So Jihad, tell us about yourself. Like, who are you, and especially what's your archery story?
Sure. So thanks for contact with me. It's been a pleasure to meet with you and know you. And of course, you're doing amazing stuff on your channel. So kudos to you for that. And pivotal in getting some views as well. So you have you have a share in that as well, and I appreciate your comments about the channel. So a quick rundown about myself. So probably back in 1998 or so, I was about 18 or so. So I just found out that archery was a feature of Islamic history. And, you know, we had these romantic ideas, oh, okay, we need to get into archery and will make us a better Muslim, etc., etc. Not that it does, but it's a good thing to get into. So we to a local archery club. We did a very basic beginner's course, like a 6-week beginner's course, recurve, you know, standard course. But our minds were already set on traditional archery and also horseback archery. So soon after that, we basically opened up our own club, which was a little bit more urban orientated. So it was towards more urban areas where some of the kids were, you know, mixed ethnic backgrounds, and you know, these kids would normally have less chance to have exposure to archery, basically. So we wanted to kind of give them a little bit of an experiment with archery. We had to then, in order for us to open up, take a basic instructor course, which we did. So, you know, that was running fine for a good couple of years. But soon after we started archery, we started to also do horse riding separately, you know, with the hope of doing horseback archery. You know, during those couple of months or the next year, my friend and I, we actually went out to visit in his valley in Hungary for a weekend. We started to look around for people who could teach us. We couldn't really came across Christian Schrader, who was one of the kind of longer term students of Kashai. This time he had started doing his own teaching. So he was in Germany. We met up with him. We went to his valley for a weekend. You know, he's one of these tough German guys. So
now we might be losing you a bit, Jihad. We lost that part about the tough German guy. So could you repeat that part of the story?
You know, I remember it was in the middle of valley, you know, like that. So we're really, look, can we just something like that?
All right, sorry, we kind of lost the connection there a bit that you had, so we kind of are lagging out a bit. So I think the chat's got to think about why we censoring Jihad.
We were lagging out. I don't know if my internet connection, it's probably my internet connection today. It's not fantastic. It's not behaving very well. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. It's fine.
Okay, fine. Where did I stop off?
All right, so I think the last we heard, chat, was we mentioned about a big German guy, funny German guy.
So Christian Schrader. So he was. We went out to visit him in his valley, and he put us through our paces in one of his weekends, and then we developed a good. He then was happy to come over to the UK, maybe once or twice a year, mix with him, which that was really, and I won't say we were the first people in the UK to do horse archery, because we weren't, but we were kind of sowing the seeds for, I guess, raising the platform a little bit. So then, obviously through the club, we were, you know, kind of pushing the horse archery thing and traditional archery. We went out to visit also in Hungary his place where he's making bows as well. So then one thing was leading to another. The momentum was growing. Then we started to get more qualified in our teaching. So we got to like a level 1, level 2, and then we started to go and compete in horseback archery competitions. So I remember the first major one for me anyway was actually in Korea, which was at that time was the biggest horseback archery competition, which was being held annually at that time in Sokcho. And it was just an amazing experience. You see all these top level archers from all around the world doing their thing. I was wet behind the ears. It was my first event. I was just happy to be there. I wasn't expecting to win anything, but it was just a real honor to meet all these people. So a lot of people that I've interviewed now, I actually kind of developed a relationship with them probably since that time. So, Lucas Novotny was there. I'm sure Mihai Cosme was probably there. Ali Gorjihan was there. A lot of these top archers. So that was a great experience. After that, we would just start looking at other competitions. Either could be in Turkey. It took us to Malaysia. It took us to Europe. We did some in Sweden. We did 1 or 2 in the States, I think, as well. And then my friend Neil Payne, he actually started the BHAA, which is the British Horseback Archery Association. Are we still lagging? Or are we good?
You are miraculously working completely fine now. Everyone's like cheering because you actually see your face move. So we had a nice voice before. Well, we felt good, and now suddenly things are perfect. So I think the stars are aligned. Please continue.
Okay, we'll keep going. All right. So so the BHAA, which is still running today, British Horseback Archery Association. So that I interviewed I think last week was Dan Sawyer, who his wife is actually the chairman or director, I think, of the BHAA at the moment. And they've really taken it on and done a great job, pushing that forward as well. Created a lot of international affiliates and relationships with other worldwide governing bodies for horseback archery. So my archery career was still continuing. At this time, it's still a hobby. But then if we kind of fast forward to 2009, there was the economic crash, etc., etc. My own work, my job was based in London, but they were moving to basically a city called Manchester, which is about 4 hours away. So I couldn't relocate. It was too far. I had a young family, so I said, look, I can't relocate there. They wanted me to open up a shop because I was working for a clothing company, and I said, well, what does it require? I said, well, no weekends and 1 day off in the week and things like that. So I said to them, look, at the moment, I'm only doing archery on a Sunday. And if you're telling me no weekends, and then that was a deal breaker for me. So I said, look, as much as I love you guys, for me, it's going to be too much, because if I can't do my archery, then, I'll just be like a dead man walking, I'll be a zombie. So for me, that was a pivotal change. But then obviously I had to find some work. So I kind of made 2 or 3 conditions upon myself for finding a new job. I said, number one, it has to be something I enjoy. I don't want to be commuting into London on the train or the tube, because that was just soul destroying for me. And number 3, I don't want to be kind of stuck in an office or sat on a chair for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. So I said, okay, well, I've got this little archery thing going, and let's see if some of these local schools will take to it. At that time, archery wasn't so big in schools, in my area at least. So approached my son's primary school first, just to do like an after-school club. They snapped it up straight away. It became very popular. And then one school became 2, became 4, became 6, etc. So it started to snowball. The interest was increasing, and so really since about 2009 up until now, I've been teaching archery full time in schools. I teach to groups, all types of groups, males, females, a lot of ethnic groups, especially our Muslim community in and around the UK. I've helped set up a lot of archery clubs and help them on their way to get on their own feet. And my own coaching journey, I'm still trying to push myself and go for further qualification as well. And although my passion is traditional archery, I still feel as an instructor, I need to know as much as I can about everything in archery and be as comprehensive as possible. So, I'm somewhat familiar with recurve Olympic archery. I got my first compound last year, so I'm just playing. So I'm still definitely a student of the discipline and trying to learn as much as I can. And yeah, people like yourself, all these guys who are putting excellent content are really helping people like myself. So yeah, journey, and that takes us to
I think we lost you there, Jihad, for a moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, my archery journey, and no, still gone.
Yeah, kind of lost you a bit there again. This is kind of awkward for those who are watching. I've always wondered, one chat to covering, I always wondered sometimes his interviews, his internet does cut out, so we had some pretty funny moments, but hopefully this should subside for a bit here. Just for
Sorry about
Jihad,
that.
that's okay.
Can you still hear me or not?
Yep, I can hear you right now. Okay, so I think that depending on the cloud
Right.
cover in London, we have different connection issues, so should be okay. Now, just while you had to covering
Yeah.
from these lag issues, I've got a quick question from chat right now. Is aluminium risers good for beginners? I guess you have answers in a moment too, but just from my quick one here, aluminium is very good for beginners, but it also depends on what kind of archery you want to do. If you are thinking about doing traditional archery, then most of the wooden bows are just as good as anything else. But if you're looking at getting your first, say, Olympic style target riser, aluminium is an excellent choice. It's more of a long term choice, and it's something which is more for the serious target shooting. If you're into that sort of thing, so of course it's very good. Of course, the highest end target bows are carbon or high grade aluminium, but aluminium is an excellent choice. And the second question from Xavier, and I think Jihad can jump in as well here. Would you rather have the most
Sure.
advanced recurve bow or the most historical bow? Oh, that's a very good question, actually. Let's sidetrack for a bit here. So I think, Jihad, I think we'll throw it to you first. Would you rather have the most advanced recurve bow or the most historical bow?
Again, it comes down to what discipline you're doing. Shooting a 70-meter tree, then, however, a very historically correct tradition, a lot of fun to do that. But if I want to do horse archery, then all day, you know.
Hmm. I think we kind of just split there, but I think from what I got you from that was that I think it depends on your purpose. A modern recurve bow, or advanced recurve bow, would be very good for modern target shooting. But if you go for traditional horse archery, then the historical bows are better. That's what Jihad was covering before. For those who missed out on
Correct.
the lag there, but I tend to agree. Like personally for me, sorry, personally for me, I find as much as I enjoy the sporting aspect of target archery, I think like the equipment you use is really driven by the purpose you have. I mean, a lot of people will look at archery and think of like equipment in isolation. You have like compound bows and target recurve bows. You think, oh yeah, these are easy mode. You shoot really easily. You can't. It's not easy to shoot accurately. It's actually quite hard to do so. If it's easy, everybody can do it. Everybody can do it, but it takes a lot of time and training as if anything else. But the thing with the modern bows, the modern recurve bows and the compound bows, is that the floor might be higher, but the ceiling's higher as well. So you need to work both in the in not just learning the equipment, but training to use it consistently and proficiently. So if your goal is to shoot as precisely as possible and score points for competition, obviously you want the tool which will kind of betray you the least. And I'm not saying that traditional bows are bad and will betray you, but you want to remove all the variables so that it is truly you controlling the shot. Whereas if a lot of traditional equipment, there's a lot more ambiguity over what exactly is causing issues. Could be your release, could be your process, could be the equipment's inherent like lack of precision. That sort of thing is an ambiguity. But personally, I would very much love to use historical bows. Modern bows have a very clear purpose in modern sport and competition. Personally, I have that soft spot for traditional bows. And something which drives my archery journey is, moving away from just shooting modern bows and more towards understanding different bows and different styles and different types of bows. That's a journey, that is a learning journey, which I think, well, honestly, I'm not sure about you, Shahad, but like more archers perhaps should go down. Like I think we kind of streamlined into like our particular niche or our particular discipline, and sometimes we can become quite close-minded with other styles of archery. I guess we'll throw the question to you while you're still here.
Sure.
Hopefully you're not lagging. I think you're good now. It's like, well, what's your experience with looking at? Well, obviously you're both you have your foot in both modern target archery and traditional archery. What's your experience in sharing your passion for different forms of archery with other archers, but particularly people who aren't familiar with other disciplines?
Uh, when we say archery to people, everyone has a notion of what archery means to them, what they've read, their exposure to archery, movies they've seen, they think, or people they've met. The archery spans like just generations. If you look at the three, we've got traditional, you've got recurve and compound. I mean, so you've got the whole spectrum from, the most basic primitive bow, self bow, all the way up to something that's nearly machine, and this spans thousands of vision. And so there's always going to be something that will catch everyone's eye. So whether it's something, but even between a traditional and a recurve, you've got like these hunting bows. Some of them have a shelf, some of them don't have a shelf. You've got the more modern bows which have release aids and which are super technical and super, they're fit for purpose. However, again, when I've taken beginners through, different types of bows and different types of technique on you or one type of bow, I'm just here to show you what the options are, and it's for you to take what you prefer. And a lot, modern recurve, and then they'll try tradition, and then it's like immediate. They'll say, "Oh, forget the recurve, just put that away. I like this traditional one," because there's just more of a challenge there. And for me anyway, there is something a little bit more personal or spiritual, if you want to call that, with a traditional bow. There's just something a little bit more magical about shooting with but wing that is quite, but just to know that the traditional bow has been handcrafted by someone, it hasn't been cut through a machine and bolted together with screws and things like that. There's still that natural element, And this is something that some of the interviewees that I was talking to, they say, a composite bow is actually a living extension of the human being, because it's made of natural materials. Even the glue is from fish bladder and things like that. So this is not like artificial glue. So it has that natural element in it, and it lives and breathes with, and these things can really last a lifetime. So again, and I'll be the first to admit, when I first started archery, I was quite myopic. I was a little bit narrow-minded. I was like, oh, traditional archery, that's the only type of archery. This modern recurve business and compound, this is not archery. This is wrong. And especially people who are running clubs have to be very aware of this, not to isolate people that want to come and do archery, but they don't shoot the way you do, or they don't shoot the arrows you shoot, or they don't look like you, blah, 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 whatever it might be. If it's a traditional composite, if it's a longbow, if it's a recurve, if it's a bare bow, if it's a compound, we're all one big archery family. We have to be inclusive of that. And, one day you need to you don't know what it's like to shoot a compound unless you shoot it. A compound shooter doesn't know what it's like to shoot traditional until they try it. Sometimes a little bit too quick to put down the other until we actually walk a couple of steps in their shoes, So I would really suggest people try all types of bows, all types of archery, all types of release. Just find out what it's like. And then you never know, a new door might open for you and you'll have a new interest, But me personally, I like to know that, if you give me a recurve, I'm competent with it. Give me a compound, okay, I know the basics, I know how to shoot. I'm not going to send my arrow off into a tree or something like that. And if you give me a traditional, then no problem, we can go all day.
Oh, that's lovely, and I fully agree too. Like one of the biggest, I guess, disappointments with archery as it is today is that it's so compartmentalized. Like you have. Like when you go to an archery club, and this is the way things are at the moment, it's because the way it is run organizationally, it's run from a top down, like a hierarchy, where obviously the club you go to is focused on one particular kind of archery. So a lot of people come thinking, I want to do traditional longbow because, I watch Robin Hood, I read the history books, and you obviously only know about one kind of archery. And I've definitely had people sit down with me and, they say, I want to buy a wooden recurve or a longbow because I want to shoot, English longbow. But they shoot, modern target bows or compound bows, and they fall in love because, it's the kind of archery that they actually want to do. Not the, like you said before, the preconceived notions of archery. People think, I only want to do this kind of archery. That they almost lock themselves out of other kinds. And in some cases, people shoot, they see like compound bows, and they don't want to try traditional bows because it's primitive and inaccurate, and they just want to hit what they're aiming at. So obviously there's that drive. But a lot of people find out that it's actually more relaxing. And for me, I find more people only see traditional because obviously the modern styles only appear in like the Olympic Games once every 4 years or so. So you literally never see it until you try shooting it. And they find that they do archery not just for the relaxation, but for that competition. They actually do want to shoot as accurate as possible. They do want to learn about the equipment and learn how to balance the bow and so on. So I think what you said before about trying different styles and following the path of which you enjoy the most. That's what I tell my people is, look, I teach at a target club, very much so, as we are running under a target organization. Of course, we don't ban other bow types. We shoot compound and recurve, but we don't stop people shooting longbows or bare bows, or in my case, we shoot Asiatic bows too now. And what you said about like being able to use different kinds of bows is such a great resonance. Like literally, like it's so happy. It makes me really happy to like see any bow on a rack, take it, string it, and then shoot it. Doesn't matter if it's recurve, compound. We're getting there. Spoiler alert, getting there. But like one of the happiest things is, look, as you probably have to. Tons of bows in the collection. I can go out, pick a recurve bow or a long bow or a modern target bow or a Asiatic bow and just shoot it. And not just like like shoot it for fun, but feel proficient at it. That's one of the best achievements, which I think for me personally, as an archer in my journey, like I don't shoot at a very high level. The fact that I can proficiently shoot, any bow, on any release, and it feels good. I can hit the target, at 30 meters with any bow. That's like, a different pathway. Some people pick one bow and go all the way with that. For me, I'm like, you know what, that's great, but I also don't want to miss out on other bow types. So what you said about like, using any bow and using any release, I really enjoyed that. I felt that really resonated with me as well. So that was really good. That's a really good thing there. So I'm just
because the thing is, if you, I think someone, you kind of miss out the whole experience if you have never tried, another type of bow, right? And I get it. If there are people out there who are Puritans, it's like it's me and the longbow until I die and whatever. That's cool. That's good. But if that's your thing, that's good. But we need to be tolerant as well. That's fine. If you never want to pick up a compound, no problem. I respect that. But let's not talk necessarily down about he's shooting that and the compound's just a machine. The archer's not really doing anything. The bow's doing everything for you. You pick up a compound and you see how difficult it is to shoot that. Point that came to mind just as you were talking there is one of the interviews I did with Efdaluddin Kilic, who's a Turkish calligrapher and an archer, in fact. One interesting point he said is that he is a traditionalist, but he's also got a compound, and he likes both. And he said that in his view, we know the Ottomans, they took the Turkish bow evolution to its zenith, to its really top level in terms of flight archery and things like that. And they're always looking for new technologies, right? He said if the Ottomans knew about the technology of a compound, they would have adopted it, which I thought was very interesting, because they were all about how can we shoot further, and nothing today is going to shoot further than a compound. So I found that a very interesting point, and I can definitely see that it has some legs to it.
I think
sure.
Just to add there too, what I find absolutely amazing, and I like what you said about the purists about long until I die. Like in the modern sense, a lot of current shooters, like they will look down on modern technology and go, you know what, I don't want to shoot compound. Like you said, it's too much a machine. I want to shoot traditional pure archery, just stick and string. That's how it is. But then you look at the Bhutanese in Bhutan, when they still have the 140 meter competition, and they would normally use their traditional bows. But like the thing you see now with Bhutan is they're shooting modern Hoyt compound bows. Like that, their bow is their prized possession. So they're shooting traditional, like all the traditional garments, the dance, the 140 meter target, but they're shooting compounds.
Yes.
This is the homeland, the heartland of traditional archery. You really can't find many other places. Like even like in Mongolia, like they've kind of used a more target style in their Nadam games. So they've evolved their style for their purpose. But Bhutan, which is so famous for its archery, its traditional archers use modern compound bows. And I think what you said about if the Ottomans had compound bows, and I reckon historically they would not have any problems with adopting the newest technology available. They could shoot further, faster, more accurately. They would use it. They wouldn't be like that's got wheels and pulleys. We wouldn't do that way. I mean, archery. It's all about advancement. I mean, like going from simple stick bows to composite bows to different materials. I mean, the designs advanced throughout time. They got better and better. And it wasn't like one bow for all of history. So they were always seeking advancement. And arguably, the reason why the bow fell out of favor is that, you got firearms. And firearms were new, they could be improved, they could be made faster, more accurate, easy to use. So the bow reached its zenith, in the Middle Ages, and then was replaced by a weapon which is more upgradable. Whereas if we had the technology of the materials, the manufacturing into historical periods, we might see the bow still being used today as a method of warfare. But as it was, gunpowder, chain.
Absolutely.
Perhaps one
Yeah.
of the biggest impacts of history is the invention of gunpowder, and that's why we see this break in archery
Mm,
history. But and it's really really good. Oh wow.
absolutely.
So that's a great talk there about different things, and I think I fully agree with you. Like one of the like I said before, one of the hardest things is as an instructor. I'm only meant to teach one style at my club, but wherever possible, I think if you have someone who can show you a different kind of archery. Like I
Mm,
personally, whenever I run my come and try programs, I actually bring an Asiatic bow because we've got recurve bows. People are
mm-hmm.
shooting already, but I carry this exotic bow. People are like, oh, what's that? Oh, this is a Chinese bow, Ming Dynasty, or this is a Turkish bow. I'm gonna
Mm,
show them thumb
mm-hmm.
draw technique, and it's more
Mm,
it's the best time to kind of introduce people early when they're just starting out, like not when they've already locked in their mindset that this is the only kind of archery, but they
sure.
can see it being done. They've learned how to shoot a recurve bow, and then alright, here's like a demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they do with a horse bow or with an Asiatic bow, and they'll ask questions like, "Oh, why's on the other side? Why using your thumb?" And it's not like they're judging; they just don't know because they've seen one way, now they're seeing another
Exactly.
way. And this is
Exactly.
a great
Yeah.
learning place. I think that's the best place where people
Mm-hmm.
don't judge you, where people don't know. That's when they're most open to learn.
Mm,
Whereas, once people have gone down the path for too long,
indeed.
the cup starts filling up and they start
Mm-hmm.
kind of having this
Absolutely.
preconceived notions. So, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
when I saw your videos teaching archery and the fact that you have both the modern recurves and the traditional bows, the fact that you teach both, that's something which so like relatively few people do. I think we'll have a background in some place, but to teach people in different styles. And I was listening to your interview with Patricia Casalves the other day, and she does the same sort of
Mm,
thing too. She has like different branches and courses and disciplines.
right.
It's such a I guess a visionary way of teaching archery, kind of breaking the boundaries of just teaching target modern or
Mm,
teaching traditional,
mm,
but having a place for just everything, which is so hard to do given
yeah.
how archery's evolved today. Wow, what a
Indeed.
talk! So let's move to another question. We're trying to see. Chat's a little quiet, but our connection is good right now. So let's make the most of it while we still
Okay.
can.
Sure.
Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about okay. So let's talk about like your personal commitment to trading. All right, this is something that's been on my mind recently because I know with the
Yeah.
current situation with COVID, a lot of us have had struggled to maintain our discipline and our
Yeah.
passion in many cases. And I'll kind of share my story for a bit for those who are watching for you as
Mm,
well. So, and maybe get some wisdom from you to help us out. So, for me, I took up archery quite late as a person. I think I'm not sure about when you started archery, Jihad, but for me, I started when I was like 20,
mm,
23, so about 10 years ago. Well, age
right.
review right there. But that's like I started quite late. A lot of people start quite young when they're kids, when they're teenagers. I started quite late, and I never really
Mm-hmm.
had this interest in art to begin with. So archery for me was what you might call it an adopted passion. People will ask you, "You're so passionate
Mm,
about archery. When you talk about it, you light up. You know a lot about it." And obviously, I've made a whole channel about it, so that I can't say that I
sure.
don't have a passion for it. But to me, it feels like I've always had this conflict in my mind where it's an adopted passion. It wasn't mine to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I picked it up. It was kind
Right.
of random, and I've kind of made it my own. But I feel like I've been adopted into the archery family rather than being born into it. So
Mm,
what happens is when it comes to like especially difficult times, work gets in the way, family gets in the way, personal life, and again especially now with we've got a pandemic going around where we can't go to clubs and things are getting more restricted.
sure.
It's so easy to lose kind of like that adopted passion becomes like shelved. It becomes like placed in the back shelf
Yeah.
because it's not your primary concern.
Mm-hmm.
And for many of us, and me included now, like I haven't shot. I mean, I've shot bows in the backyard for a bit, but I haven't, shot my Olympic recurve for like 3 months. Haven't been in the club for even longer than
Mm,
that, and I don't really intend to for the time being. That coming back to archery has been such a big challenge. It's been a big mental barrier because like, some people live and breathe
right.
it, and what you said before about
Mm-hmm.
you just got to have it. You're like you can't like have work life balance about the archery. For
Mm,
me, I find it almost too easy to let go. I mean, people are still saying, "Oh, make more
yeah.
videos," and I'm getting more merchandise and more product samples sent to me and say, hey, make these videos." Like, I've got like lots of gear
Right.
right now to review and try and set up. I'm like, but at the same time, I've got other things, and it just feels so painful to say
Yes.
that archery is not priority. It's not even second priority. It's not even third priority. And
Right.
how important is archery to you? Like, how do you manage to keep that fire going for archery?
Sure. Well, look, I mean, you know this as well as I do. People might see one side of us, but the reality is actually quite different. So, um, often when I go to teach in schools and things like that, and people say, "Oh, you're an archery coach," I'd say, like, "Have you gone to the Olympics? Have you got to any like, high level standard?" And I kind of disappoint them a little bit. I say, "No, I haven't actually, because I'm just too busy coaching. I'm too busy teaching." In fact, a coach once said to me a number of years ago, he said, "Look, if you want to get to a high level of archery, do not coach, because those extra hours and weeks that you are spent coaching someone else, you need the time to be putting arrows into a target." It was never my I was never it was never a goal of mine to get to Olympic or national standard or a county club level or anything like that. I just wanted to be good at archery where I'm looking and put it where I want. And also enjoy, especially with the horseback archery aspect. I just enjoyed just riding on a horse, shooting arrows, and hitting the target. Um, this COVID situation is very strange, because even though we've got actually more time on our hands, because we're not working, we're not going out, we don't have a normal job, it's done. Or maybe we could that a little bit, things don't always get done. Um, that it me more just like do maintenance repairs on the bows that I've got. All the arrows, they need refletching and things like that. So it's given me a bit of time for that. I wish I could say that I'm every day shooting 100 200 arrows or not, and I'm not on that level. Yeah, out, David.
Well, I think we lost you a bit there.
Now, did we cut out?
Yep, I think we had a brief cut out there. I think we're with you again now. Hopefully.
Were you good? Yeah, you
Yep,
can
we're
hear
good
me.
now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I went out every day shooting arrows and making holes in the boss, but that's not the reality. Um, you know, I encourage people to do as much shooting as they can, but if you can't shoot, the stretchy bands are excellent, excellent things to use. A person that we've both spoken to, Ahmed Karat, there in Sydney, he did these excellent videos on traditional archery, Turkish archery, light bow. Really needs people think, to be a better archer, I need to shoot an arrow. Helps. If your technique finely tuned and level, the arrow will kind of take care of itself. The archer, they have to start that process of making sure that they can operate the bow correctly, and then once they've got good technique, then the arrow and the target, everything else will kind of take care of itself. But one thing I think, as much as the COVID has been an inconvenience this time, I don't think we're going to miss all this extra time that we've had. So, I encourage myself to really benefit from this extra time that we have, and do all the things that we normally procrastinate and put off. Try and get them done now, so that when life returns to normal, we can and have used our time properly, you know.
Mm. And I was speaking to somebody else before, like a few months ago, I had a Q&A with Jared Gratchus from Rogue Archery, and one of his coaching wisdoms was something which really resonated with me, especially was the thing you are not doing is what you need to do the most. That was the very
Right,
that's Coach
right,
Wisdom right there. The
exactly.
thing you are not doing right now is what you need to do most. And for a lot of us, it might be things like doing stretching band exercises, because a lot of us don't do that. A lot of us have the mindset of we should go and shoot. So whatever you're not doing, you should be doing. That's what you need the
Mm,
most. I know for me, I don't do a lot of conditioning, so things like stretching band, things like SPTs or hold exercises. I
right.
don't do it enough. I mean, but a lot of athletes, even just amateur ones, will be holding and pulling and just building up strength and building up stamina, rather than shooting all the time. Just the drills and the skills. So I know I should be
Mm,
doing it, but I don't do it. Now I don't need to shoot to do it, but I should be. I've got my 54 pound Mingbo over here. I keep it here as a reminder to
mm-hmm,
pull it, and I still don't do it, but it's a very beautiful bow. And every now and then I'm sitting here going, let's do half an hour just pulling. I'll watch a video, put some music on, and I'll just be drawing it back and holding, just to get a
yeah.
feel of doing it again. And plus, I don't normally shoot 15 pound bows, so it's
Mm,
improving my strength, improving my control. I remember when I first got it. I'm
mm-hmm,
like, well, this is my heaviest bow so far. But it's like 65 pounds, but on my draw length it's about 54. Not a heavy bow by any means,
okay.
but it's heavier than average. It's I normally shoot 40 pound bows. So my first time using, it, like, oh man, this is a nice little bow, and one of
Yeah.
the things which I find I'll probably talk about too is kind of like a draw length progression. Is like, when you don't realize your progression in archery. That's one of the funny things. If the thing is like, you don't really recognize your skill level.
Mm,
Like, it's not like you level up and you suddenly can shoot X amount of arrows or
right.
X points or X draw weight. It's so gradual. You don't notice the improvement.
Mm-hmm,
And I've been shooting for years now,
yeah.
and I used to think like 40 pound or 45 pounds was a big deal. And nowadays I'm like, oh, okay, 50 pounds, yeah, that's not bad. A little weight now. And obviously,
Yeah.
if you teach someone starting off, you give them a 15 pound bow, you're like, where's the weight? Like, I can't shoot this, it's too light,
Right, right,
sort of
right,
thing. So I find it quite
right.
hilarious too. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's something I keep in
yeah.
mind. I've got heavier bows in my collection to practice
Mm,
with, and I guess I keep one
mm.
here as a reminder that like, it's here, it's a beautiful bow. If you want to shoot it, you got to practice with it. So keep on training, keep on exercising. I do like what you said before,
So,
but
so, something
yeah.
something that came to mind. Sorry to interrupt you, David. Is that when like with anything that we are doing on a regular basis, if you leave it, there's like a ratio of 1 to 3. If you
Mm.
leave it for one day, they say it takes you 3 times as long to get back to where you left off. So if you leave it for one day, right, and you come back the next day, it's going to take you 3 days to get back to where you left off. So that's like 4 days gone, and you haven't really progressed.
Ooh.
So that was just something talking to the interest or the just doing, even if it's a little bit, try and do a little bit every day. And I'll put my hand up. I'm probably being a bit of a hypocrite here, but I'm not doing it every day. But the people that we're coaching, we're saying, look, try and do a little bit every day. Try and keep it on your radar, keep it in your body, keep the movement there, keep your muscle memory there. And then that way you haven't totally shelved it. But of course, look, in reality, everyone leads busy lives, circumstances change, people fall ill, etc., etc.
Mm.
These things happen. But I think at the very base level, I think even mentally, if you can visualize your shot routine as well, and you can keep that alive, then that feeds into your muscle memory as well.
And as a teacher, I often tell my students, look, for those of us who are competitive minded, like, imagine you're facing somebody else. If you don't train today, somebody else will.
Right,
If you don't put
right.
your 1 hour in, or your 2 hours of study or your training today, somebody else not only
Hmm.
is doing it, but also doing extra on top of that. So for every day,
Exactly.
every hour, you're falling behind. If you want to compete and you want to be your best and be the best in your club or your best in your state or your nation, to be an Olympian or whatever your goal is, then you got to see it as commitment. And the other month I spoke with Jake Kaminsky, who is the national
Yeah,
Olympian, and he talked about archery is a full-time thing. It is a job. People will shoot from
exactly.
at 7 to like 6 in the afternoon or something. So it is a full-time commitment, and of course, somebody who puts that time in isn't going to underperform the way we do. We do what we can, but I think our biggest flaw is
Right.
is consistency. Sometimes we shoot really well, sometimes we don't. That
Indeed.
that variability isn't
Mm.
existent in the highest levels. And what you said before about
Right.
Visualization, absolutely. I think, I mean, like honestly, the last time I shot was like I think last week or 2 weeks ago. It was just like after work, just brought the target out in the
Mm.
backyard and had a few shots. And it's been a whole month,
Mm-hmm.
and like anyone that's archery knows this. More than a few days, you lose it, especially with like recurve,
Mm.
especially with like traditional bows. You really lose it.
Yeah.
It takes months to
Yeah.
lose like conditioning. It takes longer to lose like technique, but the finer things you lose,
Yeah.
like the release, the draw, the hold, all these things they start becoming gray areas where they start fragmenting. You're like,
Mm.
oh, what's the exact feeling? It takes a bit of time to get back into it. But I also think that once you
Yeah.
train to the point where it does become muscle memory, it comes back quite
Mm.
naturally. I think that the coming back feeling, it's something which is it's such a good feeling
Mm.
to have. You're like, oh, I haven't lost it. I can still can shoot. It's like hammering the
Right.
target, just
Yeah.
start
It's still there.
executing. It's still there, and I felt, I'm shooting better. I think having spent time
Mm.
away, I start visualizing different parts of the process which I didn't pay attention to before.
Mm.
Especially
Mm.
when you're. I think when we're training, and you might agree with me here. Sometimes you go on
Mm.
autopilot and you don't pay attention to anything. You just shoot and you just clear your
Right.
mind.
Right.
That's fine. But at the end of the day, you've learned nothing because you've shot 100 arrows,
Mm.
but you haven't
Mm.
shot 100
Without
arrows. Yeah,
purpose.
exactly. Without purpose,
Mm.
exactly. And I felt that, especially sometimes, it's been in the current time where people love speed shooting, for example. We just like shoot as fast as possible. We
Mm.
kind of lose that touch. We just kind of spam arrows. It's like, oh yes, I shot 20
Yeah.
arrows in 15 seconds. I feel really good about it. It's quite a nice feat. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I
Mm.
chucked 20 arrows. Yes, so what?
Mm.
And I feel that if I slow down and shoot like
But what have
one
you got
arrow,
back from that? Is the question.
exactly, it's a nice once in a while sort of thing. But if I keep on doing it, I'm just chucking arrows. Yes, I feel fatigued. I felt like I've done a workout, but I feel like it's like doing a lot of gym training, and you're doing the wrong form, but you're doing it really quickly.
Mm.
If I've done 20 reps, well, you've done like one, but you just done 20 wrong ones really quickly. And I feel that
Mm.
sometimes, I'm not saying like speed shooting is bad and you shouldn't
Yeah.
do it, by the way. No, there is a technique and form to it.
Sure.
But if
Mm.
you're autopiloting your technique, you're shooting and you're not really paying attention, and then like I said before,
Yeah.
there's no purpose. Oh, like it's like a
Mm-hmm.
waste. You just wasted an hour of your time just like chucking arrows. It
Mm.
might be stress relief, but it's not
Indeed.
training. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's yeah. I felt great when I last shot. I
Well,
haven't shot
there's
for like
you
a
know
week too, but
there's
yeah.
the famous saying practice makes perfect, which everyone knows. But in archery, one of the coach told me, and I'm sure maybe yourself, that practice makes permanent. And what is the difference there? The difference is that if you practice something incorrectly, you're going to do it incorrectly. So it's not just practice makes perfect, yes, but you have to do it correctly. And the more times you practice a bad technique, if you think of a rope, and every time you're doing a bad technique, you're tying a knot in that rope, and you're doing another knot and another knot, and soon you've got this ball of knots. And to correct that, and you actually have to go back to square one again. And so this is where the idea of quantity and quality comes in. When I did the interview with Thomas Tavernier recently, it was fascinating to hear how, although he knew archery and he did some archery in his life, when he first came to his master in Korea, he said, his master said to him, do you know, what did he say? He said, I heard you know some archery. Thomas said, yeah, I've done a little bit. He said, lesson number one is forget everything you know about archery. So fortunately, Thomas was a good student and he wasn't one of these egotistic guys who was like, "Oh no, but I think I know," and whatever. He said, "Okay." He wiped his slate clean, and for I think a couple of weeks at least, it was band training and just literally like moving his arms up, and he never got to actually shoot an arrow for maybe a month or maybe a couple of months. But when he did shoot that arrow, his body was so prepped for shooting, and they shoot 145 yards, no meters, 145 meters, which is a long way. And I said to him, "Oh, they must have done some blank bossing, and 2-3 meters away." He said, "Nope, we didn't do that. When you shoot your first arrow, you are on a 145-meter range, and but by then you see you're so prepped." And this was, I think, the topic we were talking about is why the Koreans are so dominant in not just the traditional archery world, but the modern Olympic archery world. They're always on a podium, always at the Olympics. They're getting medals. And why is that? It's because it's just their work ethic, and I think their method of training. It's just so thorough that their quality of shooting is just on a different level.
And I will agree too. Like one of the things which in Korea especially is that focus on discipline, patience, and fundamentals. Like the training band is even in modern
100%.
Olympic archery, like the schools and the academies there teach. It's stretching band for the first 6 months. Like you don't hold a bow, whereas the Western mindset is we get a bow in your hands within 30 seconds. Like here's a bow, we teach how to shoot it, and that's the kind of the immediate gratification which archery has kind of become these days. It's kind of like a lot of people don't commit to archery as a sport, as a pursuit. They want to do archery as an activity. So you have people who won't do archery once. They want to spend an hour or 2 hours doing archery. So we have to maximize their shooting time, their exposure. You have, a briefing on safety. You have someone teach how to use the bow, and you just shoot arrows for the next hour. And that's for what most people want to do. But it also kind of creates a very weak foundation because people will do it for an hour. And I get to a lot of my club too to say, I've done archery before. Yeah, I did archery at camp or did archery at a club. And, they don't know everything, but they feel that they've got a pretty good understanding of archery, which they probably do. They can shoot a bow, they can get an arrow on target, but they just don't have the fundamentals. And it's really hard to tell someone, like I said before, throw everything out. Like you can't just wipe the slate clean because people come in with so much experience and background. Like you've made progress so far. Why should I unlearn what I've learned at the other place and learn from scratch?
Exactly.
So a lot of people don't have that patience and that discipline to reset and learn from an open mind. I'll share a brief anecdote too. Like when I first met Ahmed, because he was visiting from Sydney, he was joining our brothers in Melbourne at Archery Ascension. And not a chance to go and meet him there with her brother Omar and Ahmed was coming in, and it was such a humbling experience. And I mean, for those who haven't seen the video, I think many people have, where we had to uncut talk with Ahmed and I, and that was just a humbling experience to kind of learn and immerse in the culture of traditional archery, traditional Ottoman archery especially. And for me, like I didn't have a formal background in traditional Eastern archery or Asiatic archery, so it's really easy. And it's coming from me. I'm a celebrity, so I come in, everyone knows me. I shoot a certain bow, and people know who I am. It's really easy to come in and say, oh, I know archery, and then kind of flex, in front of other people. But when you're in a community of peers, there's no there's no point in showing off because there's someone better than you always, and there's someone who's worse than you. In all parts of life too. There's no point in always. And it wasn't about trying to show off to Ahmed, who is obviously more experienced than I am, and it was so easy actually for me to learn from Ahmed because everything he taught me felt like it was new. Like I didn't have to let go of things because my default state of mind was I know nothing. All right? I bring a lot of things with me, but I know nothing. So when I learned from Ahmed, it wasn't like I had to. It wasn't a challenge to my mindset. So when he said my grip was wrong or I should hold it this way, it wasn't like, oh, but I learned this way. I was trying to resist it. It was like, okay, let me try.
Yeah, you didn't get offended.
Absolutely. They said, oh, you
Mm.
use these bare shaft, we're doing Torba, and he's trying to explain what the arrows are going left and right.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me, I shot Torba, arrow went straight. Look, see, the arrow doesn't lie. And I think, well, okay, that's good teaching for one. A
Mm.
good teacher will show the truth, will show honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because a lot of people resist to have this mindset where they've got to, prove them. I'm a good archer. They've got to prove themselves. Like, no,
Right.
ego is an enemy in
Right.
archery. Ego can be a very big thing in archery, and sometimes you gotta let
Exactly.
go of that. Um, and I find out in especially in archery, like people often are very protective of their own methods, and they can be very defensive when their
Definitely.
form is questioned or criticized, and it's very hard sometimes to let go of
Right.
that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. I've got a question, by the way.
Indeed.
Well, this isn't
Indeed.
really a question, but this is a comment. Someone in the chat just said that you've got a very nice bow on your wall in the back there.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me
What
let
is
me
what is
grab
it?
it. Hold on.
And just while Jihad's grabbing that, Jeff has an interesting comment here. So Jeff has a good comment about the Kudo approach. I'm not sure if you've done Kudo or you've actually experienced it yourself, Jihad. Have you done Kudo before?
I think I've pulled a Kudo bow many years ago. I went to a local club here in London, which there's not many. I think there's literally one club here, which is in North London. I went to go and visit them. It was an amazing experience, very ceremonial. It was great to see their bows, but I have to admit I don't have that much experience in practicing or shooting Kudo. No.
Yeah, so the question from Jeff was, I wonder if Kudo, the approach to Kudo is valid as a basis for Olympic competition or a form of competition. I might answer this question from what limited thing of time I've spent in Kudo. Kudo
Mm-hmm.
isn't really archery. Don't be insulted, Kudoka. Don't be insulted. Kudo,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. So someone when I made a video on Kudo, someone had a very good comment. Okay, Kudo is to archery what the tea ceremony is to drinking tea. Right? If you just want to drink your tea, just drink tea. If you want to learn the ceremony behind it and the rituals, then you take the tea ceremony course.
Mm-hmm.
Same with archery. If you want to shoot a bow, then you shoot a bow. Don't do Kudo. Kudo is not the
Right.
bow. Kudo is the person. It's about the ceremony. It's about the individual.
Yeah.
It's about the spirituality of archery rather than shooting the bow.
Right.
Now, there are practical versions of Kudo. There are different
Mm-hmm.
schools that teach it. But as a competition, that's not the same sort of thing as what you would
Mm.
see in a modern competition. Now, in when you are graded and assessed for
Mm.
Kudo, you are judged on form. It's not
Mm.
about accuracy, of course. It's about
Mm.
form. So everything from your steps,
Mm-hmm.
your breathing, your pace, your tempo, your
Right.
technique, your positioning,
Yeah.
all these things are scrutinized by
Mm.
judges, and you are graded based on how proficient you are at going through all these steps. Accuracy is secondary,
Mm-hmm.
but the steps first. That would be very hard to judge in a competitive format. And imagine
Mm.
spectating this. Like people will watch a video and go, "Wow, it looks amazing! It's so relaxed and calm." But imagine the
Mm.
competition. In a modern competition, how would you, make this a spectator event? Archery itself is quite hard to make a spectator sport. It looks kind of repetitive
Right.
and that sort of thing. But judo is very slow. It'll take like an hour to go through like five people.
Mm. Mm.
It's an interesting exploration. Definitely recommend if you're interested in watching it, then like look at videos, especially if you find grading videos. But you find that it's hard to sit through and watch. To do it is one thing. To watch it, and especially to watch it as a competitive sport, might be a little different there. Sorry, Jeff. As a
Right.
training method, I'm not sure exactly which part of the training method you mean. If you talk about like the
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals, like we said before about the stretching band, not holding a bow for the first 3 months, that sort of thing, possibly. That's what the Koreans
Sure.
do in their current Olympic training. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure form. I'm not. I might be a little question. I'm not sure what the question is here. Unfortunately, Jeff. I'm not sure if talking about the specific cue to form or the approach to teaching form. I think you mean the approach. I think the biggest thing, like I said before, is the modern mindset. Unfortunately, is more gratification. So they want to shoot first, ask questions later, which is a bad thing to say right now. But like in archery, like people want to shoot first. They don't want to spend 3 months. Like, can you imagine? I'm not sure, Chad, you agree with me. Can you imagine like someone coming in? I want to try archery for 1 hour. You give them a stretching band first. They say, "All right, do this for the first 30 minutes."
Exactly.
No way. So imagine this for the first 3 weeks. No way.
Mm,
But yeah, I think if we were to
yeah.
run a proper school of archery and teach people the form today, I think, Jeff, I would agree with you. Teaching repetition, form, concentration would be desirable. I think that's what we teach in traditional archery. If you do the full course, you are meant to. You're definitely meant to teach form first and not shoot first. We have it reversed in
Mm,
modern archery, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that for a proper archer, that will probably do the right thing, but it will take 3 times as long, and most people won't last that long in archery. I mean, people today who shoot
mm,
archery with the current method, you have a crash course, then you buy a bow. Many people will drop out after 3 months after they buy the bow. So
yeah.
imagine not holding a
Right.
bow at all for 3 months. That's a lot of people get turned off by that, unfortunately. Any thoughts you had on that? I think we lost you for a minute there,
Yeah.
Jihad.
No.
Yeah.
I think just mirroring what you said, I would agree. I mean, the using the bands is very much a training method that we've adopted from, I guess, Koreans. Okay, because it's tried and tested, and there's a lot of logic and sense why you would use training bands before jumping onto a bow. It's very much like saying, someone wouldn't jump onto a motorbike before they've learned how to ride with stabilizers, for
Mm.
example. Um, I've tried that, the method that Thomas DeVernay learned in Korea. It just would not work in the West. Why? Because simply people don't have the patience. I think that's just what it comes down to.
Mm.
Um, we don't have that mindset of okay, you're the teacher, and I don't know, and I'm just gonna go with what you say. All right. The West is very much more like, oh yeah, I've done a little bit of archery and I know what I'm doing, and yeah, I think I'm a good archer. Well, really, you don't. Okay, and like you said, there's always someone more knowledgeable than you. There's always someone who's better than you. So we need to kind of tone down the ego a little bit and be a bit more humble and empty our cup so that we've got space that we can fill it again with knowledge. Um, I did try. I was working with a Muslim community here in the UK a couple of years ago, and I thought I'm going to try this method of using the bands. So for the
Mm.
first, I don't know, first couple of weeks at least, it was like one session a week. But for the first maybe month or so, we just used bands. But what I did was, I put them in pairs and I got them to really focus on each other's technique and alignment and things like that. And it actually did help when we eventually got onto the bows and shooting arrows. Someone would have thought they'd be shooting for a couple of months already, because their form
Mm.
was not fantastic, but it was good. It wasn't just like I've put a bow in their hand and off you go. We've prepped the body and the muscles for the correct alignment and the coordination and the pulling, etc., and holding. And so, wherever I go, I always try to do a little bit of band work, whether it's with kids or with adults, wherever I can. Obviously, if it's a quick taster session, then you don't have time for that. But I would definitely, encourage people to have a band with them wherever they can go. And there's always some type of training that you can do. Just on the someone asked about the bow, so I just
Yeah.
thought I'd show them. I have it in the hand here. So it's made by Keshkin bow, which the guys out of Turkey. It's a Crimean Tatar bow. I haven't got it strung because the string broke. I was recently doing a charity fundraiser where I was trying to shoot 1,000 arrows
Ah,
in 5 days or something, and the string just every time I'm knocking and knocking, the serving actually came loose. So I don't have the string on it, but it's a lovely bow. This is about a 40. Don't know if you can see it there. It's about 41 pound draw weight. Yeah, it's a laminate bow. So it's a nice bow. I have a slightly longer draw length, so I was always looking for a longer bow to pull. So someone suggested I get a Crimean Tartar one rather than the normal Turkish that I use, or I've also got some Korean bows. But yes, it's a lovely bow, well made. And you know, there's so many good bow makers out there today making good stuff. There's also a lot of ones making not so good stuff. So people need to be aware of what they're buying. People are always asking me, you know, oh, I saw this bow on Amazon, I saw this bow on eBay, and da, da, da. I'm like, okay, just stop there. Send me the link first, or let me have a look at it before you go out buying anything, because you know, not all the glitters is gold, as they say.
that is true. And by the way, Solby, we mentioned about the sense of entitlement and gratification. Isn't just teenagers? It's not just a teenage mindset where they want immediate result and they can't learn. It's actually a lot of adults. It's more of a mentality, a culture thing, where you know, for some people, some places. I mean, I say this in traditional Asian communities, we expect to have the long run. Like, I don't think many of us want or expect instant results. The way we're brought up has always been long hours, hard work, that sort of thing. There, but I think in the Western societies, and I mean, having grown up and lived in a Western society, I think the idea of when we want results now is a lot more distinct. So there is a separation, arguably, but I think there is a separation between kind of traditional mindset and kind of Western mindset. This might be debatable. There are of course exceptions. Many people are very patient and disciplined, but I think the values of society can dictate how soon people want results. I know as a teacher, I have to deal with people who want to know things right now and fix things right now, whereas I know that it'll take like 3 6 months to do that. It can be challenging, but that's something there. Also, a question before which we missed, but it kind of brought up Selby. So this is for you, Jihad. What's the average draw weight that's used in horse archery?
That's a good question. Again, there's not one fixed number there. I think it depends on the age of the person. There's a number of other factors. I would roughly say between, let's see, between 30 to maybe 40 pounds as an average. I do know guys that shoot heavier than that, 40, 45, maybe 50, especially the guys that are into their heavier bows. Reenactment, they want to try and shoot 60, 70 pounds, but that's at the upper end. If you're shooting about 20 pounds, 15, 20 pounds, it's not really that heavy. So I would say anywhere between 30, 40 pounds is probably the average weight for horse archery to really make sure you get a good strong shot off, you know?
All right, had to answer the question there. Thanks a lot. Okay, I reckon we'll start wrapping it up. So we'll probably have one more topic, and then we'll wrap things up over here. So we've spent a lot of time talking about so many different things, philosophies, attitudes to archery, inspirations, passion, motivation, and drive. I guess I think a good topic now would be kind of like, you know, especially looking with such an uncertain future ahead of us, you know, especially in the current time. Like, what's your advice to people? What's your wisdom, man, as an archer and as a person? What's your advice to us who are having a hard time fighting ourselves again?
You mean in terms of getting back into archery or
Yeah,
what?
let's talk about archery. I think archery is a metaphor for a lot of things. So let's talk about archery. I mean, I'm personally struggling
Sure,
a bit to get back into archery. So what advice would you give someone like me who, you know, probably has
sure.
that fire, but how would you get someone like me to kind of really spark that
Yeah.
fire?
Well, look, you know, we each have different trigger buttons. Okay, different things will trigger us and make us react and respond. But me personally, you know, there's a saying that the group is stronger than the singular. All right. So even if, let's say, you're not even in the mood to shoot, whatever, maybe go along to your local archery club or go and watch some local archers shooting. You don't even have to have the intention of going to shoot. Just go and watch them, and then something might spark an interest in you to say, okay, now I want to go and have a go, right? Because again, back to this COVID situation, it's been very strange that although we seem to have a lot more time on our hands, we actually become more lazy, right? We've got a lot less done, although we've got so much time. It's just paradoxical. It's a bit crazy. When we're back in our normal routine, we're running around. The reason we can sometimes get more done is because we have that pressure of like, okay, I've only got a window of 1 hour to maybe do some practice. I've only got this Saturday, free. The next 3 weekends I'm busy, so I have to get something in. So there's that kind of pressure of obligation, right? I have to do it, whereas now it's like, oh, one day just turns into another day. It's like Groundhog Day, it's the same thing every day. Oh, I could do it tomorrow. So, I think little goals, little steps, pigeon steps is the way forward. Working incrementally. Like you say, you're not going to wake up one day and feel like, okay, I'm ready to shoot like 100 hours today. That's not going to happen. And look, we're all human. We all have that. We all get lazy, right? We all have down days. I'm sure. We look at someone like Jake Kaminsky, who you interviewed. He's putting out all these videos and he's shooting every day. I'm very sure some days he wants to get up. He's like, I just don't feel like it. There's a very famous guy called David Goggins. He's a health fanatic. He holds some Guinness records for the number of pull-ups and things like that. He's a health freak. But he also is like a motivational speaker. He used to be like really overweight, and then he lost weight. He went to he was a Navy SEAL and things like that. He's a super fit guy, but he says, look, people see me and they think every morning I wake up at 4 a.m. and I want to go for a run for 10 miles. Because that's not how it is. More often than not, he wakes up and he's having his cup of coffee and he's looking at his running shoes and he's like, man, I don't want to go out today, And then he's walking past them, he's looking at them again, and they're talking back to him. They're like, come on, you want to go. But we just have to, there has to be that element of kind of pushing ourselves, If we've got someone around us who can also give us that little slap round the head and push us, give us a kick up the backside, that's even better, If you've got a coach or something like that, that can help. But look, it's these are strange times, difficult times for everyone. But just do something small. Try and do a small act, small achievement, and then you can slowly build on that. Try and do that again the next day, and again the next day, and then soon you'll find yourself getting into a positive routine.
Beautiful. Thanks for the wisdom, and that again, it resonates so much with me. Many of the things like, having to wish yourself to shoot 100 arrows doesn't really work that way, and put things off, and especially watching people shoot. I think for me, I'm kind of torn between I know I enjoy teaching people archery. I know that when I go to the club, I often put my bow aside and teach somebody else. I really enjoy the connection and watch people learn. I'm a teacher after all, so I really enjoy that. At the same time, I know that if I spend more time teaching, like I said before, I'm not gonna become better as an archer. I'm gonna throw a lot of time into coaching and not into shooting. So kind of torn between that, but I do know that. Sometimes you do need to step back and just help someone else out, and that can reignite the spark in yourself as well. And, sometimes I'm like, I'm seeing someone shoot so badly, I'll go, you know what, I'll show how it's done. I bring the bow out again and start shooting and count the target. I guess, in some ways, the Western mindset is the teacher has to prove themselves. I'm like, okay, you want to do it that way? I'll prove myself. So that's a very good bit of parting wisdom. So I reckon we'll wrap it up there. I think we've done a great job in managing so far. We've managed to go through a few connection issues, but we've managed to stick it out there. A lot of great words of wisdom and advice, great perspectives, and a great chat too. And hopefully, if you're watching this, you can skip through the choppy bits. But I reckon about 80% worked out pretty well, and that's a pretty good result from what I've got so far. I want to again do a quick shout out to Jihad's channel. I think that one of the best resources at the moment, and it's really underutilized, guys. I know Jihad's a small platform right now, but just the amount of dedication he's had in getting so many people on board. He's done more interviews with more like people in the archery community than I have in my career. Like, he's done so much. Like, literally, guys, everyone should go and watch it. Like, this every day, watch one video. Like, there's so much stuff out there. You've got people like Justin Ma, Murat Osveri, Mihai Cosme, his first few there, bow makers, fletchers, quiver makers, the whole lot, me as well.
We've got some very interesting people coming up this week as well. Sorry to interrupt, David.
Please.
Hopefully, I have a Yumi bowmaster this week. He is a Kudo master and a Yumi bow maker. He's actually a 21st century master in the line. So he's 21st generation, not 21st century. 21st generation bow maker. He will be hopefully talking to me tomorrow. And then I'm hoping to speak to someone from the Cherokee Nation, who's like a Red Indian from the States. And we're going to be talking about their history of archery and how archery is so important in their culture, things like that. And then we're going to be talking to some very interesting other people who are like making quivers and some composite bows. So hopefully there's still some more good content on the way.
Absolutely amazing. So thanks a lot for all your hard work, Jihad. Okay, this is something which I wish I could do if I had more time, but I'm so happy that somebody else is doing it. Gives me a break too. So thanks a lot for your hard work, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of you in the future.
You're one of the inspirations, Dave. You're one of the inspirations.
All right, so I reckon we'll stop it there. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us, and for those who are watching afterwards, hopefully you found something useful, some gems of wisdom, some motivation, and of course a lot of new videos to watch. Check it out. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thank you very much to Jihad for joining us today and sharing his time and his wisdom with us. And hopefully, wherever you are, you stay safe, especially in this current environment. Stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, find that fire which motivates you, and may your arrows fly true. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.